You stand silently beneath the freezing night air of Southampton Harbour. Before you, the Titanic rises like a floating city. Massive, beautiful, almost unreal. Warm golden lights glow across its enormous decks. Smoke drifts slowly from the giant funnels into the cold Atlantic sky. Crowds of passengers move excitedly toward the ship carrying suitcases and heavy bags. Some laugh nervously. Others stare upward in complete disbelief. The Titanic is said to be the greatest ship ever built. Stronger than any storm, more luxurious than any hotel on Earth, and supposedly unsinkable. You slowly step forward with hundreds of other passengers. The wooden docks creak beneath your feet. Cold ocean wind moves through your clothes. Nearby, wealthy first-class passengers arrive in elegant coats, surrounded by servants carrying expensive luggage. Their lives seem calm, comfortable, far away from struggle. But not everyone boards the Titanic the same way. You hold a simple third-class ticket tightly inside your hand, the paper already damp from the freezing air. Your journey will not be luxurious. You know that already. Still, hope fills the harbor tonight. For many passengers, the Titanic represents a new life, a new beginning across the Atlantic Ocean. Families dream about America, about work, about survival, about escaping poverty forever. As you approach the enormous ship, the scale becomes overwhelming. Towering steel walls rise above you endlessly. Crew members shout instructions across the crowded dock. Steam hisses loudly from deep within the ship. Somewhere overhead, music drifts softly from the upper decks. Elegant, peaceful, almost magical. For a brief moment, the Titanic feels less like a ship and more like a dream. You finally step aboard the Titanic. The wooden floor beneath your feet vibrates softly from the giant engines hidden deep below. Everything around you feels enormous. Endless hallways stretch through the ship like corridors inside a palace. Bright electric lights glow warmly against polished walls. The smell of smoke, ocean air, perfume, and fresh paint fills the atmosphere. Passengers move slowly through the corridors, searching for their cabins. Nearby, wealthy first-class guests walk confidently toward the upper decks where luxury waits for them. Grand staircases, fine restaurants, warm dining rooms, soft music. But your path leads downward, far downward, toward third class. You descend narrow stairways deeper into the ship. The warm, luxurious atmosphere slowly disappears. The air becomes heavier, hotter. The sound of engines grows louder beneath the floors. Eventually, you reach your small cabin. Tiny metal walls surround the cramped room. Several narrow beds are stacked closely together. The air smells of damp fabric and steel. Families squeeze together, trying to organize their few belongings. Children stare nervously around the room. Some passengers look excited. Others already seem exhausted. The ship vibrates constantly beneath your feet, a deep mechanical heartbeat echoing through the steel structure. Far above you, wealthy passengers enjoy music and expensive meals beneath glowing chandeliers. But here below deck, life feels very different. Still, despite the cramped conditions, many passengers remain hopeful, because even the poorest cabins aboard the Titanic still seem better than the lives many left behind. Slowly, the giant ship begins to move. A deep horn echoes across the freezing harbor. Long, powerful, emotional. The Titanic is leaving Southampton, and somewhere beyond the dark Atlantic Ocean, a new future waits ahead. The deeper you move into the Titanic, the warmer the air becomes. Heavy mechanical vibrations echo endlessly through the steel walls. Somewhere far below, massive engines roar like distant thunder beneath the ocean. You walk slowly through the narrow third-class corridors. The hallways are crowded with families carrying bags, blankets, and small wooden boxes filled with everything they own. Children run excitedly between the cabins. Others cry from exhaustion after the long journey to Southampton. The smell of coal smoke, damp clothes, ocean air, and metal fills every corner of the lower decks. Nothing here feels luxurious. But compared to the lives many passengers left behind, it still feels miraculous. For immigrants escaping poverty, the Titanic represents hope itself, a floating bridge toward another life, toward America, toward survival. Inside the third-class dining room, long wooden tables stretch beneath dim electric lights. Passengers slowly gather together for their evening meal. Soup, bread, potatoes, simple food. But warm food nonetheless. People speak in many different languages around you. Irish families, Swedish workers, Syrian travelers, Eastern European immigrants. The Titanic carries thousands of dreams across the Atlantic tonight. For a brief moment, the atmosphere almost feels joyful. Laughter echoes softly through the crowded room. Music drifts faintly from somewhere nearby. And despite the cramped conditions, many passengers smile with hope for the future. But life below deck is far from comfortable. The deeper parts of the ship feel hot and crowded. Fresh air barely reaches some corridors. At night, the constant vibration of the engines makes sleep difficult. Metal walls creak endlessly around you. Pipes hiss softly behind the ceilings. Some passengers become seasick as the Titanic moves through the dark Atlantic waters. Others lie awake, listening to the strange sounds of the enormous ship. Above you, first-class passengers dine beneath glowing chandeliers. They drink expensive wine, while orchestras perform elegant music inside luxurious halls. But down here, families share tiny cabins no larger than closets. Several people sleep only a few feet apart. Privacy barely exists. Still, many passengers remain grateful, because even the lowest class aboard the Titanic still feels safer and cleaner than the poverty they escaped. Late into the evening, you walk briefly toward the outer deck. Cold Atlantic wind strikes your face instantly. The ocean around the Titanic is endless darkness, black water stretching forever beneath the stars. The ship feels impossibly large against the empty sea. Above, thick smoke pours endlessly from the massive funnels into the freezing night sky. You grip the railing quietly. For a moment, everything feels peaceful. The engines pulse steadily beneath your feet. The cold air clears your mind. And somewhere far away, ahead of the Titanic, hidden inside the darkness of the Atlantic Ocean, ice drifts silently through the night. The Titanic moves steadily through the freezing darkness. Above you, the sky is perfectly clear. Thousands of stars stretch endlessly across the black horizon. The ocean itself feels calm tonight. Too calm. Cold air cuts through the decks like ice. Most passengers have already fallen asleep inside the enormous ship. Far below deck, the engines continue their endless rhythm beneath the steel floors. Deep, steady, powerful. You walk slowly across the outer deck, wrapped tightly inside your coat. Your breath drifts visibly into the freezing air. Somewhere nearby, a distant laugh echoes softly from first class. Music still plays faintly inside the luxury dining rooms. The Titanic feels unstoppable, unsinkable. At least that is what everyone believes. High above the ship, lookouts scan the dark ocean, carefully searching for danger. But the sea is unusually still tonight. No waves break against the surface. And without waves, icebergs become much harder to see. Far ahead, hidden within the darkness of the Atlantic, a giant wall of ice drifts silently through the freezing water. Then suddenly, the ship changes. A strange vibration moves beneath your feet. Soft at first, almost gentle. Many passengers barely notice it. But then, a scraping sound tears across the side of the Titanic. Long, deep, violent. The ship shudders softly beneath the impact. Somewhere below deck, ice-cold seawater begins flooding into the lower compartments. But most passengers still do not understand what has happened. Inside the ship, confusion spreads slowly at first. Passengers step into the corridors asking questions. Crew members move quickly through the hallways trying to remain calm. Some people laugh nervously. Others return to sleep, believing the collision was minor. After all, this is the Titanic, the unsinkable ship. What could possibly happen? But deep below the surface, the Atlantic Ocean is already entering the ship. Compartment after compartment slowly fills with freezing seawater. Engine workers struggle desperately beneath the decks, surrounded by steam, noise, and rising water. The freezing Atlantic floods through the steel corridors with terrifying speed. Above, many passengers still remain unaware of the danger. You step outside once more onto the freezing deck. The cold air feels sharper now. Crew members quietly begin uncovering lifeboats, their movement suddenly more urgent, more serious. Nearby, you hear whispers spreading through the passengers. Iceberg, flooding, damage. Fear begins moving across the ship like a shadow. The musicians continue playing softly inside the Titanic, elegant music drifting through the freezing night air, trying to keep people calm, trying to stop panic before it begins. But slowly, the truth becomes impossible to hide. The Titanic is dying, and somewhere beneath the endless black Atlantic Ocean, the freezing water continues rising silently through the ship. The freezing night air grows heavier around the Titanic. Panic slowly spreads across the decks now. Crew members rush between passengers, shouting instructions through the chaos. Women and children are ordered toward the lifeboats first. But many people still do not understand the danger completely. The Titanic feels too massive to disappear, too powerful, too beautiful. And yet, the front of the ship now sits lower in the freezing Atlantic water. You hear distant screams somewhere below deck. Third-class passengers struggle through confusing corridors, searching desperately for exits. Some gates remain locked. Some families become separated inside the crowded hallways. Fear spreads quickly now. People push through narrow staircases, trying to reach the upper decks. Above, lifeboats are slowly lowered into the dark ocean, but there are not enough for everyone. Many passengers stare in disbelief at the half-empty boats descending into the freezing darkness. Nobody wants to believe the truth. Nearby, the musicians continue playing softly despite the chaos around them. Calm music drifting through panic and fear, almost unreal beneath the freezing stars. The deck beneath your feet tilts slightly now. The Atlantic Ocean continues swallowing the Titanic slowly, silently, mercilessly. The panic becomes uncontrollable. People run across the sloping decks, screaming for help. Crew members struggle desperately to load the final lifeboats. Some passengers pray, others cry silently beneath the freezing night sky. And all around you, The Atlantic Ocean waits in darkness. Black, endless, deadly. Suddenly, the Titanic groans loudly from deep within its steel body. A terrifying sound echoes across the ocean, metal bending beneath impossible pressure. The ship begins sinking faster now. Cold seawater rushes violently across the lower decks. The freezing Atlantic temperature is unbearable, far below zero. Anyone entering the water will survive only minutes. You grip the icy railing tightly as chaos surrounds you. People jump desperately into the ocean below. Some disappear instantly into darkness. Others scream in terror as the freezing water consumes them. The sound is horrifying. Hundreds of voices crying out beneath the stars. Then slowly, the lights of the Titanic begin to fail. One by one, the glowing windows disappear into darkness. The giant ship rises higher into the night sky, and for one final moment, the Titanic hangs silently above the Atlantic Ocean, before vanishing forever beneath the freezing black water. The ocean becomes quieter now. Only lifeboats drift silently across the endless darkness. And far away, the cries for help slowly fade into silence beneath the cold Atlantic stars. The Titanic is gone now. Only darkness remains across the Atlantic Ocean. Small lifeboats drift silently over the freezing black water. Passengers sit wrapped inside blankets, trembling from cold and shock. Nobody speaks very much. The screams that once filled the night have slowly disappeared beneath the ocean. Now, only silence remains. The stars above the Atlantic still shine peacefully, as if nothing happened at all. You sit inside an overcrowded lifeboat, surrounded by exhausted survivors. Some cry quietly. Others stare blankly into the darkness, unable to process what they witnessed. Far away, pieces of the Titanic float across the water. Wood, chairs, broken debris. Tiny reminders of the enormous ship now resting deep beneath the Atlantic. The freezing wind cuts through every layer of clothing. Your hands feel numb. Your entire body shakes uncontrollably. Nearby, a woman whispers prayers softly while holding her child tightly against her chest. Nobody knows when help will arrive, or if help will arrive at all. The ocean feels endless tonight. Cold, black, silent, and terrifying. Hours pass slowly across the freezing Atlantic darkness. The lifeboats drift quietly beneath the stars. Some survivors begin losing consciousness from exhaustion and cold. Others continue staring toward the empty ocean where the Titanic once stood. It feels impossible that such a massive ship could vanish completely. Then finally, far away in the darkness, lights appear. Small at first, almost unreal, but slowly growing brighter. The RMS Carpathia has arrived. Rescue boats begin moving carefully between the survivors, floating across the Atlantic. Weak passengers are lifted slowly aboard. Blankets wrap around freezing bodies. Hot drinks are passed carefully through trembling hands. But many people never make it to rescue. The Atlantic Ocean keeps them forever. As dawn slowly rises, soft gray light spreads across the endless sea. And beneath those cold Atlantic waters, the Titanic rests silently in darkness, broken, frozen, forgotten by the world above. The ocean becomes calmer now. The panic is over. The screams are gone. Only the endless sound of cold Atlantic water remains beneath the pale morning sky. The Atlantic Ocean grows quiet now. The panic has faded into darkness. Only small lifeboats remain drifting across the endless black water. Cold wind moves softly across the surface of the sea. Above you, thousands of stars shine peacefully across the frozen night sky. The Titanic is gone. The enormous ship that once felt unstoppable now rests silently beneath the Atlantic Ocean. 2.5 miles below the surface, hidden forever inside darkness and freezing water. You sit quietly wrapped inside a heavy blanket aboard the rescue ship. Your body still shakes from exhaustion and cold. Around you, survivors whisper softly through the silence. Some cry quietly. Others simply stare into nothingness, unable to understand what happened. The ocean feels endless tonight. Calm, empty, almost peaceful, as if the disaster itself never happened. But deep beneath those dark Atlantic waters, the Titanic remains frozen in silence forever. Slowly, the freezing wind begins to soften. The rescue ship continues moving quietly through the sleeping Atlantic Ocean. Far away behind you, nothing remains of the Titanic except darkness and cold water. The stars continue glowing gently above the sea. Beautiful, silent, eternal. You close your tired eyes for a moment. The sounds around you become softer now. Gentle ocean waves, cold wind drifting across the deck, quiet footsteps echoing somewhere far away. Your breathing grows slower, calmer, and slowly, the fear of the night begins fading into exhaustion. The Atlantic Ocean stretches endlessly beneath the pale early morning sky. Quiet, cold, infinite, and somewhere deep below the surface, the Titanic sleeps silently in darkness beneath the endless sea, forever lost beneath the stars of the Atlantic Ocean.